Sarah Jakes Roberts has long been regarded as one of her generation's most influential and motivating voices. She has gracefully carried on the tradition of faith, wisdom, and courage as the daughter of Bishop T.D. Jakes. However, there has always been a quiet strength derived from intense personal challenges hidden behind her serene demeanor and radiant smile. Few people were aware of the quiet struggles she endured within herself, despite the fact that many respected her self-assurance, her words, and her capacity to aid others in healing. At the age of 37, Sarah has at last spoken up and shared a message that has moved people all around the world. She didn't make a loud or spectacular disclosure. It was sincere, kind, and full of truth, the type of honesty that inspires both liberation and tears. It had nothing to do with secrets or controversy. It has to do with bravery. It was about a woman who, after years of silence, decided to tell the truth, reminding everyone that even the strongest people have their own burdens to shoulder. Sarah Jakes Roberts, who is 37 years old, is a living example of how honesty and strength can coexist. Her narrative is about the strength of choosing truth after years of silent battle, not only fame or family legacy. She carried the burden of expectations for the most of her life. The world anticipated perfection from the daughter of Bishop T.D. Jakes, but God was crafting something much more lovely, a tale of grace grown out of brokenness. Sarah discovered that suffering may serve as a teacher throughout her early adolescent years, when parenthood at the age of 14 put her to the test, as well as during the phases of reconstruction and self-discovery. She became the lady she was destined to be with each obstacle. She transformed fear into trust, doubt into guidance, and shame into strength. Her voice became louder because she refused to allow her past to dictate her future, not because she wanted attention. Sarah restored hope for millions of women through her ministry, writings, and the Woman Evolve movement. Beneath her achievements, however, she quietly dealt with the weariness that results from giving too much of oneself. She had little time for her own recovery because of the constant pressure to motivate others. While her own soul begged for rest, she preached to packed churches, grinned for the cameras, and touched countless lives. When she did speak up, it was a brave and polite statement rather than a dramatic admission. She acknowledged that even preachers sometimes forget to stop and take a breath, that leaders can become weary, and that faith warriors can lose their power. Her candor cracked the taboo surrounding mental health, fatigue, and the irrational expectations placed on religious women. She reminded everyone that being vulnerable does not diminish one's spirituality, rather, it enhances one's humanity. The response was strong. Instead of seeing failure, people saw freedom. Women from all walks of life contacted her to express gratitude for sharing their long-held emotions. She was surrounded by affection from her husband, kids, and church, demonstrating that vulnerability creates stronger relationships than perfection could. Sarah showed everyone that healing is contagious by sharing her emotions. If someone has the guts to speak up, others will follow suit. Her narrative serves as a living example of how God restores the faithful rather than calling the perfect. When we let our wounds speak louder than our masks, true ministry begins. Sarah Jakes Roberts offered the world more than just a sermon at the age of 37. She allowed people to relax, heal, and have faith that even the strongest souls are covered by grace when they fall. One thing is clear as her voice reverberates through pulpits, podcasts, and people's hearts all around the world. Speaking up is a sign that you are starting to rise again, not that you are collapsing. Sarah Jakes Roberts' ascent has also served as a reminder to us all that faith is about having the guts to speak up at last, not about remaining silent. Early years and challenges. Sarah's tale started in a loving, purposeful, and faith-filled home. She was surrounded by public attention, leadership, and ministry as a child since she was the daughter of Bishop T.D. Jakes. People expected her to be flawless from a young age, speaking like her father, believing like her mother, and leading an error-free life. However, Sarah was a human, and life taught her its own lessons. One of her greatest problems at the age of 14 was becoming a young mother. Even in that suffering, a seed of strength started to sprout inside her, despite the world's swift judgment. Through that fight, she discovered her true voice as a young woman trying to reestablish her religion rather than as the daughter of a pastor. Loneliness, bewilderment, and silent tears characterized those early years. She frequently felt unworthy. She saw that God was shaping her future even through her mistakes. What the outside world perceived as failure was actually training for the ministry she would eventually head. Growth and redemption. Sarah's faith grew stronger as she got older. She started talking and writing candidly about her history in order to give hope rather than to win people over. Every time she addressed a crowd, she emphasized that everyone is eligible for God's grace and that salvation is a real possibility. She created a community of women who could relate to her tale because of her candor. Her message became evident. Your past determines your strength, not disqualifies you. Even as she continued to heal herself, Sarah started assisting others in finding healing through her best-selling books and sermons. Her life began a new chapter of love and collaboration when she married Pastor Toure Roberts. Together, they established ministries centered on authenticity, healing, and purpose. Nevertheless, despite her achievements, Sarah continued to conceal aspects of herself, such as her quiet anxieties, the demands of leadership, and the ongoing need to be strong for others. The secret conflict. Sarah bore an unseen weight behind every speech and every smile. People's expectations of her perfection increased as her platform expanded. Every statement she made was scrutinized, and every choice she made was evaluated. Even though she was passionate about her calling, there were times when the weight of expectations seemed to outweigh her faith. She battled the kind of fatigue that permeates the psyche in private. She started experiencing the subtle symptoms of burnout, such as emotional exhaustion, insomnia, and the worry that she might not be doing enough. Nevertheless, she continued to move forward while grinning. Because that's what leaders do. They persevere despite internal breakdown. Her family and hubby started to notice that she was tired. They urged her to take a deep breath, slow down, and make room for her own recovery. However, learning to relax felt weak to a lady who had spent years being strong for others. Nevertheless, she knew in her heart that something needed to change. The second she talked, then came the moment that will be remembered by all. Sarah stood in front of her congregation at the age of 37, her voice composed but quivering with emotion. She spoke as a woman, honest, worn out, and finally prepared to speak her truth, rather than as a pastor or a leader. She revealed that she has been struggling with emotional and mental tiredness, silently bearing the burden of being enough. She acknowledged that even religious leaders occasionally feel confused and that being strong does not equate to never having difficulties. She whispered, "I've been preaching about peace, but I forgot what peace felt like." Her words were honest and unvarnished. She talked about learning to relax, taking time to recover, and having faith that God's grace extends to her as well as to others. Tears and empathy filled the audience, which was silent. Her fragility enhanced her humanity, relatability, and authority rather than diminishing her reputation. The response. The reaction was enormous when her remarks went viral on the internet. Thousands of people started sharing their personal accounts of hidden suffering, particularly women. They expressed gratitude to her for saying what they were too scared to say. Love, appreciation, and prayers were all over social media. Her bravery was commended by other ministry officials who described it as one of the year's most significant lessons. For once, Sarah Jakes Roberts was not perceived by the public as a famous speaker or the daughter of a preacher. They perceived her as a woman who had the courage to speak the truth, which helped many others find healing. Her family proudly stood by her side at home. "You've given the world your strength, but today you gave them your heart," Toure said, publicly thanking her for her bravery. Her children also viewed their mother as a lady who consistently chooses faith over fear, in addition to being a role model. The legacy and the lesson. Sarah revealed in the days that followed that speaking up was always about freedom rather than attention. She claimed that she had been silent for years because she was afraid of being judged and disappointed. However, she came to understand that candor leads to genuine healing and that silence gives suffering more power. She talked on how important it is to look after your mental and spiritual well-being, how you can love God and still have difficulties, and how you can preach hope and still require support. Her message evolved into an exhortation to be honest in one's faith and a reminder that God only demands truth, not perfection. Numerous others found the strength to relax, recover, and let go of the masks they had been wearing thanks to her comments.